Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, volume 22, I think it is. Yes, in Hyperion's Romantic Piano Concertos series, the big box that has the first 50 releases of 80-something so far. Oh, and this was a big deal. A really big deal. The reason is volume 22 is the Busoni Piano Concerto. Now, the Busoni Piano Concerto is one of those legendary, extremely niche pieces. It's 73 minutes long. It's in 5 enormous movements. It has a chorus in the finale. It's more than just a piano concerto. It's an extravaganza. And the piano part runs the gamut from extraordinary feats of virtuosity to a Brahmsian integration between solo and orchestra. It's really an extraordinary work that requires great concentration from everybody. It's also, like most Busoni, not really fabulously orchestrated. He wasn't a great orchestrator. It doesn't have a lot of glitter and color in the conventional sense in any case, and for that reason it can sound somewhat monochrome if it isn't played with the requisite sparkle and dynamism and attention to dynamic nuance. It's only been, when this came out, let's put it this way, it had only been recorded, I believe, 2 other times. Well, there may have been some other performances on labels nobody cares about, things like that, but I mean major recordings, and those were, and they were both excellent, really excellent. They were John Ogden with Daniel Ravenau, and it was one of Ogden's greatest recordings. It really was. He was marvelous. And then Garrick Olson with Christophe Dorani on Telarc, and Cleveland, which is sort of the reference of all the versions, for its fabulous sonics and other, really superb performance qualities. But this featured Marc-André Hamelin. And Hameliin, of course, is a legend. This was like his meat and potatoes kind of work, one of these really virtuosic, crazy, obscure pieces that he could, master and play with effortless, what's the word? Effortless, effortlosity. Yes, effortless mastery. There we go. There's the word. And he was accompanied by the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra under Mark Elder. So this shows up, and everybody's ready to acclaim it the best ever. And in the event, it was a little disappointing. It really was. And it was a shock because of that. The disappointment was not coming from Marc-André Hamelin. He's pretty splendid, as he always is. It came from the fact that the conducting and playing were not really comparable with the other 2 recordings that existed. And now there's a third, by the way, which may be the best of them all. It's with Sakari Ormo and Kirill Gerstein and the Boston Symphony. And that is just a knockout. It's right up there with the other 2 great ones. But not only was the conducting and playing of the orchestra not entirely comparable, but the balances weren't quite as good. The piano was a little bit forward, I think. The sound of the orchestra, the acoustic, it just wasn't as good sounding as the other 2 great versions that were out there. And as a result, it just didn't quite make the grade. And people were bending and twisting and contorting themselves to try and explain why this was not the best thing ever. Certainly it belongs in the Romantic Piano Concerto series, and certainly it's not bad. There were a bunch of volumes in this series done in Birmingham. The other was, most notable one probably, was the Saint-Saëns Piano Concertos with Stephen Hough, and that also had engineering issues, problems of balance, particularly within the orchestra. Whereas the recordings that they made with the BBC Scottish Symphony and some other orchestras sounded just terrific and did not have those issues. So it was an inconsistency basically in all ways, except for the playing of the soloist, because Marc-André Hamelin is splendid. And you've got this fourth movement Tarantella, which is like nuts, and the Pezzo Giacoso, which is, the second movement, the fast bits, then the serious thing, which is this big, huge, long, slow movement. He had no problem with those things. He has the virtuosity in his fingertips. He's got the brains to do the smart stuff. He knows where he should be front and center and where he shouldn't be. But the engineering didn't support it so much. And I don't think Elder was all that simpatico with the music. It's not that he was bad. It's just he's a little bit perfunctory. And so it's good. Nobody who does this thing is going to be less than good. Because you don't do it unless you can. And unless you take it very seriously. And everybody here obviously did. But there was competition. And it was exceptional competition. Because it's an exceptional work. And so the inevitable comparisons had to be made. And this is fine in the box. It's fine if you listen to it. It'll give you a good sense of the piece. But you can do better. And for a work of this caliber and intent and strangeness, I think you really need to start with the best. If you're looking for the Busoni specifically, do not think you're going to get this box and you're all set for the Busoni. You've got to get the Gerstein, the Garrick Olson, or the John Ogden, and get to know the work. And then you can make the comparisons yourself. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.